Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are streaming this from. Welcome to a new week with new opportunities. Today, we are going to be starting this live stream with the market performance for last week, the sector performance for last week, the best and the worst stock for last week, the stock to watch out for this week, which I'm going to be breaking down the analysis if you stick to the end of this section, and what you would be getting when and what you need to look out for before you buy the stock I'm going to be analyzing this week. Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm sorry, please, can you hear me right now? The mic wasn't on since. Can you hear me right now? Please, if you can hear me. Can you hear me right now? Okay, can you hear me right now? Okay. Can you hear me right now? Your mic wasn't on, but I'll just go through it again. So let's go through what we have for this week. I don't think my mic was on then. Okay, but I can see right now that it's on. So let's start again. So I'll go through it again. Okay. So let's start with what we'll be getting for this section. Okay. I don't know that my mic wasn't on and you were not getting the message. Okay, so we're going to start with the market performance. We're going to head over to the sector performance, best and worst stock to watch out for. Okay, outlook for this coming week and what investors should do. Okay, so that is all we'll be having for this section. Okay, so let's start with what happened in the market last week. Okay, so the Nigerian stock market fell to about 1.2% last week. Okay, and the Nigeria on-share index ended at 242,619 points, and investors lost about 1.89 trillion in the market value during this period. Okay, means on Monday we started with 248.53 points. Okay, 248,530 points. Then we closed at 242,619 points, which is what happened last week. Okay, so we started good, but we ended somehow not too bad but fair. Okay, which left the all share index at around 1.20%. Okay, that's what we had for last week. Now these are the stocks that actually performed well and the ones that did not perform well. Okay, now for the ones that actually, but the major ones that fell was Bao Cement, and we have Bao Cement, which we bought at 99 naira, and I don't know the current rate right now, but Bao Cement is at 316, which is amounting to over 300% gain in everything we have. Okay, so it's amounting to 300% gain. Okay, I don't know if you saw that on my screen. So it's amounting to 300, and you can see the Bao Cement. Okay, we have the Bao Cement that fell, but right now the Bao Cement is still at 316. However, we entered at 99, but right now it's at 316. But we are still on a 300% gain when we look at the Bao Cement. Okay, now the MTN also fell as well to 4%. Okay, so we had MTN fall at 4%. We had Zenith Bank at 2.70%, Last week we caught Zenith Bank, but during the course of last week we still had a 2% down. But I'm still expecting Zenith Bank to rise properly because the EPS and everything about Zenith Bank looks good on the outside. Okay, everything looks good. Okay, so we're still expecting Zenith Bank to do numbers. Okay, so Airtel actually rose to about 8.59%. GTCO, we called GTCO last week as well, so you can check it out. But then again, we rose to about 39% at the close of last week, and Access Corporation at around 0.37%. We have Access Corporation, we bought at 22, and I think currently is at I don't know, but it's at 28.48, and we expected to take profit at around 30 something on Zenith Bank, on Access Bank as well. Okay, now even though the market fell last week, we still traded about 12.15 billion, and it was totally valued at 176 billion. Okay, now total volume doubled from what we had in the previous week, so we are still bullish in the Nigerian stock market, and investors are still paying attention to the Nigerian stock market as well. Now the sectors that actually performed well now the sectors that actually performed well, as we can see, is the NGX consumers goods. The sectors and their performance rather, let's start with the NGX consumer goods, which actually dipped to about 6.72%, but the year-to-year change is still 39.47. Now the NGX insurance, we dipped to about 2.72%, which I told everyone to exit from the insurance group, insurance stocks, because the reports for the insurance stock are recently is not really giving. So let's just stay out of the insurance sector right now. But if there's any improvement, I'll let you all know on the live section. Okay, so we still have a total increase of 27.85%, means overall is still doing well. So if you had entered well, but I told you people to leave one insurance stock. Yeah, I told you people to leave one insurance stock. I think is this one. Let's check. I told you people to leave this one. Okay, this insurance stock, Arico Insurance PLC. I think we entered about 2 naira or 3, but we are still bullish. We're not having any downtime on this one. This is still fine. Okay, this is still fine, as we can see. Okay, the banking sector, which has been performing well, still fell to about 1.48%, leaving us at 53.32%. The oil sector, which is one of the best performing sector in the Nigerian stock market, fell to about 0.74%. We are still holding Owando, like I told you. We are still holding Owando, irrespective of what we are seeing there. We are still holding Owando strongly. Okay, the Nigerian goods index, okay, fell to about 1.22%. Okay, so we are still 82.84% high overall. Okay, year to date. Okay, now which sector was the most active? As we can see, is the financial service sector. That is your banking sector, anything financial service sector, followed by the ICT sector, then the service sector, which the financial sector actually holds about 92% of one of the best performing stocks. Okay, followed by the ICT sector, which holds about 5%, then the service sector, which holds about 3% as well. Okay, so it means most people are buying and selling bank stocks. Okay, now as we can see, more stocks fell than the ones that actually gained. We can see that a total of 59 stock fell, while 26 stock gained, and 62 stock did not have any trading activities. That's why we have unchanged. Okay, so those are stocks probably that lack liquidity, and like I always say, liquidity is very important in the Nigerian stock market, since it's a fast growing stock market. So you might have stocks that can let you buy, but when you want to sell, probably you find some issues selling it, or some that can let you, or some that has low demand but have very high supply. Okay, means a lot of people want to sell that stock more than the people that want to buy, and the spreads are not going to be something to write home about. Okay. Now, the best performing stocks, two best performing stock for the week is Nationwide Express and International Energy Insurance. So the insurance company still did a few bit better. You can see that did about 31.62%, which rose from 4 naira to 5.32 naira. And the Nationwide Express rose from 2 naira to 2 naira 15 kobo to 2.84 naira. Okay, now look at the best performing stocks for the week in full. Okay, so we have the Nation Express, okay, which moved from which had an open price of 2.15 and had a closing price of 2.84, which is totaling to 32% gain. We have the International Energy Insurance, which has an open price of 4 naira 0.4 kobo and close at 5.32 naira, which is amounting to 31.68% gain. We have the Sovereign Trust Insurance, which opened at around 1.67 and closed at 1.90. I think I called this on our premium channel. Yeah, I'm aware of it. Yeah. So we have the Champs Holding. Okay, Champs Holding opened at around 4.08 naira and closed at around 4.58 naira, which amounts to 12.28%. Now we have the CWG PLC, which opened at around 19.50 kobo and closed at around 21.40 kobo, which amounts to 9.74%. We have Airtel Africa, which opened at around 5,801 naira 70 kobo and closed at around 6,300 naira, which amounted to 8.59%. We have the Guinea Insurance, which opened, I think I called this too as well, but we later exited this, which opened at around 0.40, because we entered at around 1.20 or 1.50 thereabout, and we lost a lot on this, so we had to exit this. This opened at around 0.74 kobo and closed at around 0.80, which amounted to 8.11%. We have the VFD Group, which I actually called at around 8 naira. Okay, 8 naira or 9 naira thereabout. But last week it opened at 11.59. It's around 12.40. So if you are on the Telegram channel of you, or you've been there, you should be able to have this in your portfolio. Okay, we have the NECO, which opened at around 140 naira and closed at about 150.20 naira. Okay, which amounted to 7.29%. We have Cabri Nigeria, which opened at around 58.10 and closed at around 62 naira, which amounted to 6.72% totally. Okay, so that's what we have for the top gainers. Okay, let's look at the worst performing stocks. Okay, the worst performing stocks, we have the AVA Capital, which opened around 11.01 naira and closed at around 7.20. That is 34% down. Okay, 34.55% down. We have Unilever PLC, which opened at around 145.89 and closed at around 118.30, which is an 18.90% down. We have Zik Agro Industry, which opened around 21.55 and closed around 18.30. That is 15% down. We have Thomas Watts Nigeria, which opened at around 3.20 and closed at around 2.75, which is 14.3% down. We have Dangote Sugar Refinery. I called that one. I think we entered in our VIP. I think we entered around 60 and we exited around 80 something there about. Let me check the all-time high. That is where we exited. So Is it Dangote Sugar Refinery that we have there? Okay, yeah, correct. So we exited at this high here. Okay, we exited at 95 thereabout, or 80 something, at least above this high thereabout. Yeah, I think that's where we exited at. Okay, if I should check properly, let me look for it if I can see it. Okay. Okay, I can't find it. I can't go and look for it right now, but that's where we entered and exited, obviously. Okay, let's not waste our time looking for that. Maybe I'll send the screenshot to the community so that we can see that. I think I sent it. I don't know. But I'll send the screenshot as well to confirm that if you need the confirmation. Then we have I think this is the Nigerian Police Force Microfinance Bank, which opened at around 4.55 naira and closed at around 4 naira, which amounted to 10.99. We have the Austin Lars and Company, which opened around 303.18 and closed at around 2.84, which amounted to 10.69%. We have the Cornerstone Insurance, which opened at around 5.65 and closed at around 5 naira 0.5 kobo, which amounted to 10.63%. Then we have the Bao Food, which opened at around 845.10 and closed at around 760.60, which amounted to 10%. Then we have Joint Hot, which opened at around 10.11 and closed at around 9.10, which amounted to 9.90% down. Now, because these stocks are down doesn't necessarily mean that they are bad stocks. Now, different things can make stocks down. Now, if you are in my previous class where I said why your portfolio is turning red, you should be able to understand what I said. I said sometimes these are just casual market retracement. Sometimes it might be economic impact. Sometimes it might be that the company is actually performing bad. So these factors can actually contribute in making some stocks decline. But then again, you need to identify what is causing that stock to decline and know how to position yourself. Okay, now our stock pick for the week is MTN. Okay, so MTN Nigeria is our stock pick for the year. So I'm looking at MTN Nigeria, and I'm going to be breaking down why I choose MTN Nigeria. Okay, now let's go to the Q1 versus Q2 fundamental summary of the MTN Nigeria. Now we can see the revenue of the Q1 and the Q2. Okay, we can see at the Q1 we have 1.498 trillion. At the Q2 we have 1.495 trillion. Okay, and at the first half we had 2.993 trillion. But then again, the year-to-year Q1, when compared with previous year, we can see a 41.6% increase on MTN. Now, when compared to last year Q2, we can see a 13.3% increase. You can see that we are growing in revenue. Okay, so we want to see growth in revenue. That's one thing we want to see. Now, their service revenue, that is the kind of service they offer. Okay, so their service revenue, which is what the kind of service they offer. Now, what are the service that what kind of service does MTN actually offer? We can see that MTN offers data recharge, airtime recharge, call, browsing, all these things. You know, all the service they offer. They also have I think they have their fintech company, which is Momo as well. But then we'll still break down everything. Okay, but let's start with their service revenue. Okay, let's look at the total service revenue that came in. Let's see if we have growth there. We have the service revenue for Q1 2026 at 828 billion, Q2 at 845 billion. Then if we look at Q1 and Q2, we can see an increase in the Q2, which is the most recent one, and the first half at 1.67 trillion. And when you look at the year-to-year growth, we can see when compared the Q1 of this year and last year, we can see a 68.1% growth. No, we can see okay. Sorry, I was reading the EBITD. I'm sorry. So let's go back to the service revenue, where we have 1.489 trillion for the Q1 and 1.48 trillion for the Q2. Then the first half is 2.975 trillion. Then we can see a 41.8% increase when compared to last year, and see a 13.2% increase when compared to last year Q2. So we can see a growth in the service revenue. We know the kind of service they offer, and we can see a growth there. Now, let's go into the one that I mistook for that one, okay? Which is the earning before interest, tax, and depreciation, okay? And harmonization. That is the EBITDA, okay? Now, we can see that we had an increase of, we had 802.8 billion for the first quarter and 845 billion for the second quarter, which is an increase from the first quarter against the second quarter, and we like to see that. Now, when we look at the first half, we can see we have 1.67 trillion, which is nice. When you combine those two together, it makes up the first half. Now, the year-to-year, when compared to last quarter, we can see 68.1% increase. We can see 91.1% increase when you compare both quarters, okay? Now, when we look at the margin, we can see that a 53.3% margin on the Q1, while we can see a 56.5% margin on the Q2, and the first half, which is 55.9% margin. And when we look at the year-to-year margin, we can see a sharp increase of 8.7 pips and 2.7 pips when we look at the Q2 as well. Okay. So operation profit. Okay. Let's see the operation profit. Okay, let's see the profit being made from operating the business. Can see 632 billion in the Q1, 634 billion in the Q2, an increase in the Q1 against the Q2, which is good, okay? A total of 1.267 trillion, which amounted to a year-to-year increase of 84.5% against last Q1. And for the recent Q2 is not yet out, so let's see the profit before tax. Okay, we had 544.4 billion for the first quarter and 545.2 billion for the second quarter. Okay, now when we join this together for the first half, we can see 1.092 trillion when we combine this together. Now the year-to-year Q1, okay, when compared with last year, we have 169.6% increase. Then we had for the Q2 29.9% increase. Now for the tax revenue, for the tax, this is the amount they paid on tax. Okay. Now the amount they paid on tax was now 190.9 billion for the first quarter. For the second quarter, more money, more taxes, 193.1 billion. Now for the first quarter, we had 384 billion first quarter. Now for the year-to-year Q1, when compared with last year, we can see that more money, more tax. For the Q1, they had a total of 176.8% and 39.5% for the Q2. Now, overall profit after tax, we can see 355.5 billion in the Q1, 352 billion for the Q2. So the Q2 had a sharp declining from the Q1, but it's not really bad. It happens in business. But when we check the first half, we can see 707.5 billion when we merge both of them together. But however, we can still see that we have growth when compared to last year quarter, which is 165.9% increase and 25.2% increase. Okay. Now the earning per share, that is the EPS, we can see that for the first quarter, investors are willing to pay 16.95%, which is not really fair, because when we calculate it with the initial share price, which is around the initial share price, but then again, the initial share price for MTN, let's check the initial share price for MTN, which is 805. So when we compare 805 with 16, 805 divided by 16, where is that thing? Compared to 16.95, we find out that it's not, the EPS is not something I would like to be at that level. It is giving us 48.7. I don't like it to be at that level. I would have loved the EPS to be something better. However, it's not really bad. It's not really bad. It's not really bad. Okay, it's not really bad, because MTN is a big company, and when we look at their fundamental summary, is looking good. Their fundamental summary is looking good. We can see a lot of growth in the company. However, the EPS, it doesn't really matter. However, but when compared to last year, which is 6.37, we can see a 166.1% growth, which shows that more people are paying interest to the company. But the EPS is too small. But then again, because when we compare the EPS with the stock price, you can find out that it's too small. But the finances are not bad. Okay, the finances are not bad. Now we can see the first quarter. We can see that the EPS for the first quarter was higher than for the first half overall is 33.76. Okay. When we compare it to the first half of last year, which is 19.80, we can see a 70.5% growth in the EPS. Okay, and this is how they've been making their money, or this is how their money came out. Okay, we all know the business they offer. Okay, they offer data service. Okay, they offer voice service, which is core digital service. They offer fintech, which is the Momo and other service revenue. And we can see the year to year, we can see the increase in data, which is 56.2%, in voice, which is 22.5%. Okay. In digital service, which is 12.1%, in fintech, which is 77.9%, other services increases to 36.7% respectively. So we can see that the company is generating profit. Of course, they make money from Nigeria a lot. Okay, now let's look at the second quarter. We can see that the data also grew when compared to the last quarter of 2025 by 24.9. You can see the voice also grew by 3.1%. Digital grew by 31.2%, but the fintech declined over 72.4%. Then other services grew by 17.5%. Okay. Now, then we want to check out the technical analysis for it, for MTN. So let's check out the technical analysis. Let's see if overall we can buy MTN. I already did my technical analysis, so if you can see, I already drew a lot on it. Okay. Now we can see that MTN is fast reversing, but then again, buyers are still trying. So it's reversing from this level, but buyers are still trying to get the market at this level again. So buyers are still trying to take over the market at this level. However, we want to see MTN drop down to this level before we buy. So is it good for buy right now? For me, I would say no, but everything is set apart from prices getting into our order block zone or our Fibonacci zone at 45.89%. So every other thing is okay, but we want to see prices come down to that zone before we initiate a buy order. So if you are interested in getting a notification, you need to join our all-in-one inner circle, which I'll be posting the link after this section. So if you're interested in seeing it or in getting that notification, you can join our all-in-one inner circle. However, if you feel you can monitor it yourself, then that is good. Then you can wait for prices to drop at this point. Then if you want to see order of my portfolio as well, the inner circle is one place you should be so that you can see it. So it's now an all-in-one that contains teaching you, telling you why you should buy the stock like this instead of just calling the stock for you randomly. You can see that a lot of changes has happened in the group. So we just don't call stocks. We want you to see the fundamental before you buy any stock, so that you can see what you are buying. You can see if it actually meets up to what you want. So if you want to see more stocks, that I'll be buying, you can join the inner circle as well. So we're waiting for price to drop to this level before we come in. Okay, so let's conclude this class. Okay, so what should investors take from it? Now, from last week, we can see that the market had a just short-term correction, but then again, the market is still bullish. Okay, profit taking was one of the major things that caused the correction. Trading activities remain very strong. Like I said, more stock fell than the ones that actually gained for last week. Okay, but 2026 market is still positive, and year-to-date return is still 55.9% growth. Okay, so we had a bit of challenges last week. However, market is still growing. Okay, so MTN is the stock for this week. I'm going to also post the performance as it goes on. Okay, so those that want to buy now, you can buy. But then again, I do not advise people to buy at that point. Like you saw the technical analysis, we're waiting for prices to drop to this level, because I'm not going to buy now. I will still wait for prices to drop to this level. But if you want to cost average this, then you can buy some now, then buy the remaining when it drops to this level. Means you can buy probably 30% of the overall share you want to buy now. Let's say you want to buy with 10,000 naira, you can buy 3,000 naira on now and buy the major one when it drops to this level. Now, what is that going to help you do? Now, in case prices start rising from this level, then you start making your money, okay, from the 30%. But however, if prices start to decline, you don't get to lose a lot before prices tap into this zone. Okay, so that is all we have for this section. So I'll be taking questions for this section. So if you have questions for this section, you can ask. I'll be unmuting the only person here, so we can get questions from you. So, excuse me, Sir Ma, do you have any questions for us so that we can trash together? I've unmuted you, so if you are still in the section, if you have any question, you can ask. Okay, so if you are good for it, then we call it a day. Do have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you.